What's going on, everybody? Crazy Dog back for another video. So this video will be my AFC South draft review, where I talk about the Jags, Texans, Titans, and Colts draft classes and give them a grade based on how they address their positions of need. So without further ado, let's get to the review. Starting with the Jaguars, who finished 3-13 last year. They fired their coach way later than many Jags fans would have wanted. And, they suck. They're garbage. hmm Can they finally get out of the basement this year? We'll see. So, their positions of need were offensive line, tight end, running back, D-line, and quarterback. So, let's see how they address those positions. With their first round pick, fourth overall, the Jaguars selected Leonard Fournette, running back out of LSU. I mean, there was some people that believed they were going to go Jonathan Allen or, quarterback. Yes. Like Deshaun Watson was the most famous guy at that spot. A lot of guys said, oh, yeah, they're going to go Deshaun Watson. Then there was the Fournette hive that wanted Leonard Fournette to go 4. I mean, they even had a hashtag, Fournette at 4. But yeah, they did the smart thing. They chose Leonard Fournette. He's probably going to be in the running for Rookie of the Year this year. He may be one of the best running backs in the division. I mean, the Colts have Frank Gore. I don't even know who the Texans have. Alfred Blue. The Titans have Derrick Henry and DeMarco Murray. But Leonard Fournette and TJ Yeldon are going to be a dynamic duo. Sort of. But I expect Leonard Fournette to have a monster year this year. Then with their second round pick, the Jaguars selected Cam Robinson, tackle out of Alabama. Okay. Oh, man. Come on, man. God. Oh, I'm going to keep going. So, Cam Robinson out of Alabama with the second round pick to the Jaguars. So there you go. You aid your offensive line, and you get your running back with your first 2 picks. Nice draft so far for the Jags. Then your third round pick, the Jags selected DeJuan Smoot, defensive end out of Illinois. Now, I know a lot of Jags fans did not agree with this pick because they already had enough defensive ends. But hey, you can never have too many defensive ends, am I right? I mean, he's good, I guess. Didn't really see too much of him because Ohio State didn't really play Illinois that much. But I think he'll fit right in Jacksonville. He's got a high motor. He's physical. Doesn't get sacks, but, he's... That's the one thing about him that, you should like. He has a high motor, and he's very physical. Ooh. All right. Moving on. Now in the fourth round, the Jaguars selected Dede Westbrook, wide receiver out of Oklahoma. This guy could most likely be their number 3 receiver, unless they get rid of one of the Allens. But most likely he's going to be the number 3 receiver. And then, 5th round, the Jags selected Blair Brown, linebacker out of Ohio. Oh, you? Oh, you didn't know? Oh, man. Don't really know too much about him. He's short, 5'11", for a linebacker. 238. That's a good size. That's a good weight for a linebacker, but he's 5'11". Wow. We'll see what the Jags do with him. And then, probably one of my favorite picks by the Jaguars. They selected Jalen Myrick, corner out of Minnesota, with their seventh round, one of their two seventh round selections. The thing about Jalen is that he's got speed. He can keep up with these speedy receivers. He'll probably be put in the slot next to Jalen Ramsey. But I mean, you have Jalen and Jalen. But yeah, he's good. He's got that speed, and that might be the one thing that kept him from going undrafted, his speed. So, and then with their last pick of the draft, the Jaguars selected Marquez Williams, fullback out of Miami, Ohio. Again, don't really know much about him. I mean, I didn't even know fullbacks were even used anymore. I know the Browns use fullbacks, but I don't really know that many teams that use a fullback anymore. So if I had to give the Jags a grade, I would give it a simple B, just because of what they did in the first part of their draft. They got themselves a running back, and they got themselves another offensive lineman. Because it's looking like Brandon Albert's being a douche, and he's holding out for more money. Wow. What a douche. Alright, moving on now. We got the third seeded team in the AFC South. And that was the Indianapolis Colts. Yeah, the Colts. With Andrew Luck. They finished third behind the Titans and the Texans. Bruh. But anyways, looking at the Colts draft, they had a pretty good draft. With their first round pick, before I go on and move on, their positions of need were offensive line, defensive line, running back, linebacker, and corner. So let's see how they address those spots. With their first round selection, they selected Malik Hooker, safety out of Ohio State. It's been said that if the Browns had not moved down from 12, they would have taken Hooker at 12. But they traded down with the Texans, and they got Jabril Peppers. I wanted Malik Hooker badly because the Browns don't draft Ohio State players, and Malik Hooker was arguably one of the best ones of the class that Ohio State had to offer. But whatever, we have to go against him this year, so that should be fun. And then with their second round pick, the Colts once again beefed up their secondary by selecting Quincy Wilson, another guy I wanted, out of Florida, cornerback. Then in the third round, the Colts selected Terrell Basham. That's a cool last name, Basham. Defensive end out of Ohio. I didn't necessarily want the Browns to take him, but, there's a lot of guys I wanted the Browns to take, But I think Basham will be a good piece for the Colts defensive line. Especially now that they got Hankins, too. Then in the fourth round, they had two fourth rounders. I'm sorry, three. Okay, they had three. All right. The first one, they selected Zach Banner, tackle out of USC. Okay, so they actually addressed offensive line. Hallelujah. They gave Andrew Luck security. They gave him insurance. Woohoo! Life insurance. Then with their second fourth rounder, which was a comp pick from the Niners, the Colts selected Marlon Mack, running back out of South Florida. Okay, so you get a backup for Frank Gore. All right. And then with your last fourth round pick, another comp pick, they selected Grover Stewart, defensive tackle out of Albany State, Georgia. Again, don't know that dude. Never heard of him. But I'm sure he'll find a place on the Colts defense. Then they had two fifth rounders, which they used on defense. The first one they used on a corner, Nate Hairston out of Temple. And the second one they used on Anthony Walker Jr. out of Northwestern, linebacker. pretty good draft by the Colts. They addressed their defense, which was definitely their Achilles heel last year. So they addressed their secondary, which is badly needed, and they beefed up their defensive line. So I'm going to give the Colts an A minus because they addressed all their needs. I'm actually, you know what, scratch that. I'm going to give them an A. Not an A minus, an A. Alright, so moving on now to the second place Tennessee Titans. They finished second place, but apparently they took the Jaguars lightly in their last matchup when Mariota got hurt. They took them lightly, you know? Yeah, they just took them lightly. Don't know why, but they did, according to some Jags fans. Not going to mention who. He knows who he is. Well, actually, it's only one Jags fan. And he knows who he is. So anyways, the Titans' needs were corner, wide receiver, linebacker, and offensive line. So let's see how they address those positions. With their first of their 2 first-round picks, they used, from the Rams, they got Corey Davis, wide receiver out of Western Michigan. So there's your number 1 receiver for Mariota. Another deep field weapon, deep threat. I guess you could call him a deep field weapon. You know, I mean, he could go all the way down the field and create draw attention to himself, draw double teams. Draw the safety, and then that'll open up the hole for the tight end. But Corey Davis is a very, very good wide receiver, and I think he'll thrive in Tennessee. And then with their second first-round pick, the Titans addressed their defense and selected Adoree Jackson, corner out of USC. The cool thing about Adoree Jackson is that he can also play special teams. He can do punt returns as well. He's a very good punt returner. He's kind of like Jabril Peppers, except I'm pretty sure Adoree can't do offense, whereas Jabril could thrive on offense. I mean, he's not like going to be a 100% offensive player, but I'm pretty sure he will find, packages for Jabril on offense. So you got yourself a corner and a number 1 wide receiver. And then with your third round pick, well, you have 2 third-rounders. With the first of the 2 third-rounders, the Titans selected Taywan Taylor, wide receiver out of Western Kentucky. So you get yourself another good receiver to go with Corey Davis. All right. And then with your second one, you selected Jonnu Smith, tight end out of Florida International. Okay, so you get a backup to Delanie Walker. Okay, I'm liking what they're doing. And then in the 5th round, the Titans selected Jayon Brown, linebacker out of UCLA. In the 6th round, they selected Corey Levin, offensive lineman out of Chattanooga. Then in the 7th round, the Titans had 3 picks, the first of which they used from the Bengals on Josh Caraway, a linebacker out of TCU. The second one they used on Brad Seaton. I wonder if he's related to Jamal. Offensive tackle out of Villanova. And the third one they used from the Giants on Khalfani Muhammad, running back out of Cal. So that is the Titans draft. And overall, I'm going to give that draft a B+. They had a very good draft, especially in the beginning. Not to mention they also filled up all their holes too. So that's an added bonus. And now, with the division winner, the Houston freaking Texans. So, we all know what they did with their first round pick. But their positions of need were quarterback, offensive line, linebacker, corner, and safety. And as I just mentioned, they traded up with the Browns and took Deshaun Watson. That's the Eagles pick, and then they gave us 2 picks for next year too. So technically, that Eagles pick is still living on through the Texans now. But yeah, the Texans got the quarterback. Of course, they gave us Brock Osweiler earlier, around free agency. They shocked everybody and traded Brock to the Browns. And a second round pick, too, I believe. So we got a pick and a player. So, not too bad. We'll see how Brock does. But now the Texans got themselves another quarterback to compete with Tom Savage. Then with their second round pick, the Texans addressed defense and selected Zach Cunningham out of Vanderbilt, linebacker. In the third round, they selected Deontay Foreman, running back out of Texas. Then in the fourth round, the Texans selected Julian Davenport out of Bucknell, offensive tackle. With their second fourth round pick, which they got from the Browns, I believe as part of that trade for Deshaun, to get Deshaun. I think. Yeah. The Texans selected Carlos Watkins, defensive tackle out of Clemson. And then, moving on to the fifth round, the Texans selected Treston DeCoud, safety out of Oregon State. And then with their last pick, in the seventh round, pick 25, 243 overall, the Houston Texans selected a local kid, Kyle Fuller, center out of Baylor. So that is the Houston Texans draft. I'm going to give them a solid B. It was a good draft. They got their quarterback. They filled up almost all their holes, except for corner. But that's a pretty good draft, I guess. But yeah, it's going to do it for the AFC South draft review / grades. Now, by the time you're watching this, I'll most likely be working on the NFC South. So, yeah, going to do the West tomorrow, and that's it. So, I'm Crazy Dog 99, and I'll see you in a little while.